Greetings everyone, my name is Etterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Mega Man Maker. During the last part, I covered 6 viewer submitted levels, so in this part I'll be covering at least 4 or 5 more viewer submitted levels, starting out with this one. Enter the Electric Funeral final version by Monty with 7 plays and a score of 0. This is the finalized version of the original stage that I played way back in part 30 of this LP series. That original level was titled Take Your Time for the Electric Funeral. So let's see how it has improved over the several months since the previous level was made. As always, if you want one of your levels to be featured in a future part like this one, please leave both the level name and level ID either in the comment section below or direct message me on Twitter. Also, as always, the full disclaimer of this entire LP series is linked in the description below. Also in the description are the timestamps for all the levels I cover in these parts, so if you want to check out the levels covered, expand the description. I knew there'd be a secret over there. It just looks so suspicious with those 2 large weapon capsules laying out in the open. And it seems that this stage is going to be at least 60 to 70 screens long. The original stage was a fortress stage after all. Well, I do want that M-Tank, so I will go for it. And I failed to time that one properly. Wonderful. We're off to a good start then. Probably should have damage boosted over there. And that's how we're supposed to do it. Thank you for the checkpoint there, that was a bit of a close jump. You can do that using charge shots, but you need to jump back up before doing the charge shot. And there's plenty of large weapon capsules lying about, so I suppose this stage heavily incentivizes special weapon usage anyway. I mean, we're forced to use the crash bomb here anyway. So definitely a fortress level in that regard. Oh, I remember this. This used to be a pit over here that I confused to be a separate route, and thus I jumped into the bottomless pit. Now it's been replaced with a bed of spikes, so that's a good improvement. Another good checkpoint placement. Should I go for that E-Tank? Well, let's go for it. Let me just wait for that to respawn over there, and then I'll slide in there. Oh, and it was well worth it because we gained access to the firestorm here. Pretty easy challenge overall. Putting the E-Tank there made sure that players knew that there was going to be a separate route, and adding the Firestorm capsule there just sweetens the deal. Rats, I panicked a bit over there and jumped right into it. I did the same thing in my first playthrough of this stage, unfortunately. Well, at least the checkpoint's nearby, so it isn't too bad. I mean, there's a checkpoint right over here and right below there. I don't think we really need a checkpoint down over there, but I won't complain, it's rather generous. This time, way over here. And that's how you do it the careful way. Checkpoint placement of the stage is rather on the generous side. Definitely double the amount in comparison to most of the traditional fortress levels that are made in Mega Man Maker, or in the traditional Mega Man game on the NES, that is. And there, my jump button failed to register. Wonderful. There's a bit of micro-stuttering happening in this stage, which is kinda throwing off my button inputs. That's just for a spare tank, let's go down here instead. I don't need another E-tank. The stage isn't that difficult. That's just me failing again. I did the same mistake in my first run through of the stage. I well learned my lesson in the first version of the stage, not to blindly jump off of ladders. This is new. Over here we gain access to the top spin. I wonder if the firestorm or the top spin is Sparkman's weakness here. I also think this is an optional area, but I'll have to double check. Because I get the impression that there's going to be a secret weapon over here. Oh, never mind, it just sends me back over here. Fine with me, I guess. I get a free E-tank. Rats. That force beam generator over there was kind of obscured by the life bar. That's why I delayed for a bit over there. Okay, we made it. Nothing too bad. Though I did die at least once or twice over there. Oops. I meant to bounce off of the telly over there to reach the right side. My bad. I really don't feel like dying here, so I will consume a spare E-tank. I have 2 more of them after all, plus an M-tank. Nope, no secret to the right. It just looks so suspicious. But I do know there's a pathway leading back over here. Another good checkpoint placement. And because I had access to Toss Spin, I can bypass the harder lower segment. So glad to see that having these extra special weapons opens up some side pathways, as well as some shortcuts. And the majority of these Yoku Block challenges aren't that difficult anyway. I suppose this is an optional route that'll link up on the left side again. And I was right, it just leads over here on the opposite side of the challenge. Oh, I see. If I didn't have access to the Toss Spin, I'd have to take the longer route to get to the right. But because I have access to Toss Spin, I can take the shorter route. Neat. This wasn't present in the original version of this stage. Definitely feels slightly harder than the original version, mainly due to those Sparkman platform jumps, though I don't remember the exact level structure of the original stage. After all, I played it almost 90 parts ago. Well, might as well skip the bottom part of the stage if I have access to. Gosh, I skipped quite a bit of the stage, it seems. Well, not quite a bit, but a notable amount of it. There are several segments of the stage where if you don't have access to the Toss Spin, you'll have to take the longer route, like as evidenced over there. Okay, we're fighting on top of these count bombs then. And there's spikes at the bottom, wonderful. Let's try this again, shall we? This time a bit more competently. Didn't mean for that to happen. Let's try Crash Bomb against Sparkman and see if that works. Yeah, it's Crash Bomb. Well, this was certainly a neat boss arena. Having to fight Sparkman legitimately in this arena can be a bit of a challenge, especially with all the enemies, the count bombs reflecting shots, and the spikes everywhere. Still, this is certainly a neat arena. Overall, I think I like this version of the stage more than the original version, that being Take Your Time for the Electric Funeral. Better constructed, better challenge progression, and I liked how having access to the special weapons that you unlock throughout the stage, specifically the toss spin, allows you to skip or bypass all the challenges, and make the stage a bit easier and quicker. I wish there were more segments that allowed skipping segments with the Firestorm, because that felt kind of underutilized outside of using against the Pukapellis in some segments. I guess that was intended to be used more against the enemies, whereas the toss spin was intended to be more used for skipping challenges. So, in that sense, it makes sense. Second on the lineup is Protoman Rises Up in the World by Cress, with 24 plays and a score of 5. So I see this is a Protoman level. Thankfully we do not take double damage, so I do appreciate that. Also we have access to Water Wave, which I'm already seeing is being put to pretty good use. What with some of the enemy placements. And here for example, because it makes minced meat out of those Docrons. Same with taking care of those Gabioles. Good checkpoint placement. Really liking the challenge progression here, and remember the Gabioles are indestructible to my buster shots, and they cannot be slowed down or frozen in place like the normal spines can. Might as well give the Water Wave a time to shine. After all, it was one of the worst weapons in Mega Man 5, and this buffed version is a lot better. Same with the Power Stone actually. The Power Stone in this engine is a lot better than the version in Mega Man 5. Even better than the Water Wave in several scenarios actually. Another good checkpoint placement. In comparison with the previous stage, this stage's checkpoint placement is less generous, but it works out. And I see we're now utilizing these water areas in order to increase our jump height. Okay, this is something new. This is something I did in Mega Man Maker that I haven't seen before, or haven't tried out. When Water Wave is spawned inside the water, let's try outside first. It dissipates immediately when it hits water when spawn above water, but when inside of water, it acts kind of like a short-range shotgun, firing a bubble spray. That means that Water Wave is going to be a super useful damage-dealing weapon, a high damage-dealing weapon when used underwater. But the bubble spray does despawn when it goes outside of water though, so you have to keep that in mind. You either need to spawn the Water Wave outside the water or inside the water completely in order to get the best effect. Glad to see that this stage is heavily incentivizing Water Wave usage. Thank you greatly for the checkpoint. I was going to die there if there was another enemy room, though that was more of my fault for not paying attention to the Techion there. This was a neat traditional / fortress stage, nice chance progression, nice introduction of gimmicks, and nice showcase of usage of the Water Wave. After 7 deaths off screen, I did it. I had to consume an E-tank off screen, but in that fight I ended up leaving Chargeman with just 1 point of health left. Most of my deaths happened mainly due to my jump inputs not registering, meaning that I kept getting hit by the Techions. Otherwise, I really enjoyed this stage. Nice usage of the different gimmicks from Mega Man 4 and Mega Man 5, and nice usage of showcasing the Water Wave. Pretty good job, Cress. I will give you a thumbs up. Third level on the lineup is Acid Rain Zone by Leezy, with 6 plays and a score of 1. This looks like it's going to be a shorter stage. And it seems like we're going to be chasing Toadman to the right, meaning that he's going to constantly throw down acid rainstorms. Remember, the acid rain can 4-shot me, assuming that I don't damage boost through it, and I expected that to happen eventually. I mistimed when the acid rain would come down. Not to mention, it could be semi-random of when Toadman decides to throw down his acid rain attack. Here's what I was talking about. As long as I'm in my invulnerability frames before he starts the acid rain, I should be fine. I should have did a slide to jump over there, but I was a bit too worried. And I presume this stage doesn't have checkpoints either. When I first encountered this stage, I was hoping that it'd be easier than the previous stage's boss encounter, but boy was I proven wrong. This is easily the hardest level of the part so far. It certainly has a unique concept, but nonetheless I'd only recommend this for intermediate to somewhat skilled Mega Man players, as it forces you to speedrun through the stage and damage boost your enemies in order to survive. Fourth level on the lineup is Space Warehouse by Lenny, with 11 plays and a score of 3. Let's hope that this stage is easier than the previous level. It's going to be at least 10 to 20 screens long, I see. I see. Never mind, I'm just falling down over here. Actually, I want to take a look and see if I can cross the gap. As such. Nope, no secret to the left. That seemed like a perfect place to put an E or M tank if you were to ask me. And as the title suggests, this is a warehouse stage in space. No space gravity though. And I saw that watcher to the left over there, so I gotta be a bit careful not to get knocked into one of these pits. Slowly getting more challenging, I see. It definitely feels a lot easier than the previous level, by far. In fact, in some ways I say this is easier than the first stage even. Good checkpoint placement? I always point out good checkpoint placement because there are a lot of Mega Man Maker levels that don't have good checkpoint placement. That's why I always try to point it out. Challenge progression of this stage is somewhat nice, although I would have liked if introductions were a bit safer, but it works at least, and the enemies and gimmicks are being recombined in more difficult fashions in later parts of the level. Overall, there's a clear progression in difficulty, like this challenge before. First we started with no spikes, then one set of spikes, and now several sets of spikes. Should I go for it? Nah, I'll take the safe route. And that was me being foolish, and I'm sent all the way back here. This is where a traditional level would place a checkpoint. There we go, I made it. I died 4 times off screen due to getting knocked off of platforms, and dying twice again in that segment. That's why I wish there was a checkpoint just before that one. And there are some problematic enemy placements, but those are dealt with by using special weapons. So that was the end of Space Warehouse, a traditional / fortress level that started out not that difficult, but got quite difficult near the end. You may want to work on some of the enemy placements and put a checkpoint in between the first and second one, but other than that, I'd say it's a roughly decent stage. So 5th and final level to part is Skull Mountain by the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, with 10 plays and a score of -1. And we have a nice set of special weapons to start out with. No charge shot, sadly. I feel like the previous stage could have been improved if we had access to the charge shot, instead of having to rely on the limited set of fair shot energy. So far so good. Good checkpoint placement. A bit more generous in comparison to the previous stage, actually. A little bit of a surprise introduction to that ceiling dropping enemy as well as the shield attacker there. I guess this is intending to be more like a fortress level after all. Now, even though I'd qualified this stage and the previous stage as being kind of fortress levels, this one is more doable buster only than the previous one. Might as well just let the rolling drill do the work here. Whoa, that could have gone really bad. I didn't expect that rolling drill to pop up over there. Would like a checkpoint after 2 or 3 more screens though. Alright, this is a good placement for it. And the stage is certainly getting a bit more challenging. What with all the gyries here. And I do like how it's switching things up with the junk blocks, and in several locations, you're incentivized not to destroy them. Timing that is a bit of a problem though. I knew I was gonna die over there, so thank goodness there was a checkpoint right over here. This is one of those other locations where I wish I had a rush jet utility, or a rush coil. I would have preferred if there was more time to react to those Skullsuki enemies. Also, good checkpoint placement over there, especially considering the difficulty of this previous challenge. And we made it. I guess following is another set of challenges. So we find Skullman over here with his Skullmet cohort. So that was the end of Skull Mountain. I wouldn't say it deserves a score of -1. I'd say it's a fairly on par level. A little bit forgettable, but it has a nice challenge progression, and I'd say the checkpoint placement was better than the previous level. So I will give it a thumbs up. So overall, out of the 5 levels I played in this part, my favorite level would definitely be Enter the Electric Funeral Final Version, with an honorable mention going to Protoman Rises Up in the World. But gosh, some of these levels had a lot of deaths off screen. Whether it be the boss deaths that happened off screen during Cress's level, the many deaths I had trying to defeat Toadman in Leezy's level, and trying to make that jump over spikes in Lenny's level. And half of them were due to the engine not registering button inputs, unfortunately. Unfortunately, these parts happen from time to time. So in the next part, I'll be covering 2 longer viewer submitted levels. Well then, thanks for watching and have a nice day. Toodles!